Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Hannah Montana and welcome back to another I Edit Your Photos challenge. I hope you're all having a stoked out of 10 day so far. Shout out to the OG viewers that remember stoked out of 10. This was my first merch when I had like 3K and I was like, yes, it's a good idea to make merch. But you know what? Some people in the world have stoked out of 10 t-shirts. So if you're watching this right now and you have one, comment below. It's like super limited edition. I only had like 15 of them made. Anyway, getting into today's video. You guys loved last week's videos where I edited your photos and I got so many email submissions of you guys sending in raw photos. So I really enjoyed the series as well. I'm definitely going to try and carry this on weekly. So it's going to be fun. A nice community interaction, engage. I messed up the words there. A nice community engagement, interaction, collaboration, creative thing. Yeah, winning at life. Anyway, so I learned from the past video that I think it was way too long, and also I think each video needs to have a specific focus. So last week was kind of just all over the place. I started with the landscape and then went to portraits and then an outdoor portrait. It was just everywhere. So this week I'm deciding to do only 3 photos. So keep sending in your submissions, because if I'm looking for a specific topic and you have a photo that matches what I want to edit with, then I will choose your photo. So in saying that, today's focus is going to be on landscape photography specifically, and then maybe next week I'll do portrait photography and also try and integrate them with a certain style, not necessarily just how I edit, but maybe how somebody else edits. We shall see where this takes us. But I'm going to do 3 landscape photos today. Please let me know what you think of the video, what you think of the structure of it. I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out because last week was just the roller coaster and all over the show. Enough talking, let's get into the editing part of this. Alright, so jumping into Lightroom, I've chosen 3 magnificent landscape pictures. I'm going to get straight into the editing, so let's hit onto the develop tab. Just going to close everything else so we get a nice full view of the picture. That was one of the things in the last video. People wanted to see more of the picture and less boxes and menus and all that kind of thing. So getting the full picture, let's jump into the edits, let's do this. So starting out, we have this amazing shot in Italy with these beautiful mountains. Look at the color of that water. I think that's what we're going to really try and emphasize in the shot. So first things first, I'm going to bring the contrast up. I think I also want to bring the clarity up, but not on the whole photo, just on the mountains. So I'm going to go over to the graduated filter, drag that over the mountains, just bring up that clarity a little bit, even just the shadows I'll bring up, and the contrast just to make that mountain stand out a bit more. Alright, getting into the rest of the photo, I'm going to bring these highlights down just a bit, bring up the shadows, not too much, but I do want to see all the detail in the photo. Bring down those blacks a little bit, take up the whites, and that's already looking a lot cooler, getting all the details in the shots. Going to do a quick S-curve on the tone curve over here, not too much. I don't want to make it too dramatic. Maybe bring up the tail end and just fade out those shadows just a little bit. And that looks good. I mean, already we're getting quite a big shift. I'll put this side by side so you can see the changes as I go along. Alright, moving down. I don't think I'm going to do anything more to the tone curve. And next we are going to go over to the color section, and this is where we can really create some magic. Starting with these greens. Do I want to emphasize the greens, or do I want to change it to like an orangey color? Oh, I think I'm going to go with the orangey yellowish greens just to get that really travel vibes. I don't know, I just like that color better than the original green. Tell me what you guys think. Let me know. Do you like the original green or the yellowish green? Let me know down in the comments. Getting onto the water, and this is where we can really play around with things. It's more of like an aqua than a blue. So if we see, we can turn that, it's definitely aqua rather than blue. So what are we going to do here? I feel like I definitely want to emphasize the color of this, because that is like one of the most, I mean, the whole picture is beautiful, there's so many different elements to it, but the color is the most prominent in the photo. So I'm going to bring that up. Also want to bring these oranges up so you see that in the mountain, not too much though, and then just the yellows as well. Do we want to bring, I'm going to bring the yellows over to about -50. That looks good. And I'm also just going to crop this picture, because at the top we see these a bit of vignetting where the sky is just this really dark blue. So go over to your crop tool, and all I'm going to do is just bring that in a little bit, hit enter, and that looks good to me. I really don't think there's much more we can do to this photo. It is looking fantastic right now. Let's see if we add some browns in the shadows. I'm not going to do too much, maybe just at 4, and that is looking good. If you really wanted to emphasize that teal and orange split even more, you can come over to the camera calibration and bring this blue hue all the way to the left, and you'll really see how it starts to do that. But I'm going to leave it where it is, keep those natural colors in, because it is a beautiful photo. We're done. Let's move on to the next one. Up next we have this crazy cool photo taken in Japan with this bamboo. The bamboo there is so beautiful, and this perspective, great shot. Amazing shot. First things first, I'm going to start off with the tone curve, just bringing that up in the highlights, taking it down in the shadows, bringing that fade up just a little bit, and then I'm going to bring down the fade of the shadows, not too much, otherwise you see it starts to get a bit weird in the middle over here. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. Bring down these highlights just so we can still see the detail in the trees where it goes into the sky, because that's really bright. If we leave it where it was, you can see how bright it is. So I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to bring up the shadows just a little bit, not too much, and then bring down these blacks as well. Do I want to change the contrast? I'll bring the contrast up just a little bit, not too much. I also think I'm going to warm this photo up just a little bit, so bringing up that temperature to give it a nice warm glow. Don't think we need to do anything else. Maybe bring up the vibrance and just drop that saturation, just to make the colors that aren't popping, if that makes sense. Once again, coming over to my favorite section now, which is the color calibration. And what do we want to do with these greens? I'm going to bring the greens a little bit more into the orange side, not too much, not as much as the last photo. Just bring the greens to about -30, and let's make these oranges pop in the foreground. Just bring the luminance of that up a little bit. One thing I also want to do is just add a graduated filter to the bottom over here, just because the foreground is quite bright down here and we want the attention to lead to the subject in the middle. So I'm just going to bring down that exposure just a little bit so he's a bit more lit. It's lit! And then bringing over one on both sides, again just drawing attention to the center of the photo. So already looking pretty good. Very dramatic photo, but it looks cool. I am actually going to brighten up these greens a little bit just to emphasize that even more. And then going over to the split toning, I'm going to add a nice warm yellowish orange color to it just to give it that nice glow. So see, we have that there, and if we flip it off and on, it's very subtle, but it does add just a little bit of glow to the top of the trees over here. As for everything else, I'm going to leave it where it is, but again, you can get super funky with the camera calibration, just playing around with that. This is where you can really bring out some crazy tones and just achieve looks that people don't really know how to do. I only figured this late into my Lightroom editing career, if you want to call it that, so this is just a hack for achieving some really cool tones that you might not be able to get with just the normal color changes. So there we have it, the final changes to this photo, flicking between the before and after. It is looking super good. It's very dramatic and really getting the tones of the oranges and the greens and the yellows all coming into one to form something super cool. Up next we have this shot of a river running between hills. I don't know where this is, but it's a beautiful picture, so congrats on taking such an amazing picture. I just love the composition. The river is perfectly in the center with the hills coming into it. Oh, it's so good. I just want to be there in real life. But anyway, getting into the edits of this photo. The hills on the left here are quite bright. Obviously it's in direct sunlight, so I'm going to try and fix that a little bit just by bringing down the highlights. Yeah, let's bring it down all the way. I'll bring up the whites just a little bit, take down the exposure. It is looking very gray though, but we'll fix that up when we get to the colors by just bumping these oranges and yellows up, and I think it'll look quite good. Do I want to bring the shadow? I'm going to bring the shadows up as well, just so we brighten up the right side of the hill, and then just take down the blacks to keep that contrast. I could even bring the contrast up just a little bit to about 10. I'm going to bring the vibrance up to around 15. Leave the saturation at about -5. Add a quick tone curve. Drop these highlights. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop the saturation of the blues. Just quite overpowering right now. I'm going to get a nice faded steel blue color going. We could even drop the luminance. Yeah, I think that looks good over there, very silky. And then I'm going to come into the yellows, just brighten up those yellows, even take it, yeah, I'm going to take the yellows into the orange, so we get a nice blue and orange split. Just brighten up that orange. I'm going to go back and brighten up the blues, they're a bit too dull right now. That's good. The greens, let's take the greens into the yellows. I'm gonna check on profile corrections. I'm not gonna add any split toning to this photo. I think the colors in here are already quite nice. One thing I do wanna do though is darken the left hand side of the photo and brighten up the right hand side just to balance it out a bit more. So we've done all we can with the basic settings. I'm going to go over to the individual graduated filters and brushes now and show you what you can do with that to brighten up the photo. Coming over to the graduated folder, I'm just going to drag this over the left and just bring down the exposure and highlights just a little bit, as well as the blacks, not too much. We don't want to make it look unrealistic, but we can see how it's already just drawing more attention into the center point of the river. So that's good. I'm also going to drag one over the bottom and just have more of a fade, the faded area here than the actual affected area underneath. And then going over to the adjustment brush, I'm going to make this a lot bigger, bring down the feather, and just paint in the side of this hill until we cover the whole thing. If you press O on your keyboard, you'll be able to see where you've painted out. So just make sure that you cover all of the areas of the hill. Alright, so I'm going to use that as a starting point, and first things first, I'm going to bring up the shadows as well as the exposure just a little bit, and then bring up the contrast, take down the blacks, not too much. We can bring the exposure up just a bit more, but you can see I'm really starting to brighten up the side of this hill, but still keeping the contrast. Bring down the highlights. It's just getting a bit weird up here with the colors. I do think I'm going to turn the warmth up so it looks more natural, and there we go. We're starting to see that work. It's just super weird over here. We're just getting some really weird colors in the middle over here where the sun's hitting the hill and it's blending with the shadows. So I'm going to go ahead and just erase that part of our adjustment brush and see if that does anything to it. I think, yeah, that is doing the job quite well. That is definitely looking a lot better. Up next, I just want to add some color to this hill, so I'm going to bring up the saturation just a bit. We don't want to overdo it, and then come over to the color over here, and I'm going to bring it in this orange range. Up here we can see that it's starting to add a bit of orange color to it, but it is missing the spots that we just erased. So I'm going to add that with a separate brush just so it doesn't affect the brush that we already have. So I'm going to click new up here and just paint all over the areas that we just missed. Cool. And then adding in that orangey color. Alright, I think that is the best we're going to get. So if I switch between the before and after of the adjustment brushes of the hill, look how big of a difference that makes. Really just bringing the other side to life, and you can see what to do when things are completely in the shade. I think that's good. Just one more thing I want to do is brighten up the start of the river here. This is also quite in the shade, and we brightened up the hill now, so I'm just going to do that by doing another adjustment brush and just bringing up the exposure on that one. Over there, and bang. Look at that change. Damn. So that is going to wrap up that picture. I hope you guys enjoyed this edit, and I could show you how much you can do with the adjustment brushes. It really does make a big difference to your photos. So get using that and be specific with it and make your photos awesome. Just before I leave you, let me know which edit of yours was your favorite. I'd love to know, so leave it down in the comments below. Yeah, you guys get me so pumped with your raw photos. They're always so good. So thank you again for all of the submissions. Oh, that was weird. I'm so weird on camera. I don't know why. Anyway, thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you thought of it, what you thought of the structure. Send in your submissions to thevisualreviews@gmail.com, and your photo could be featured in my next video. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. If you did like it, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And in the meantime, remember to stay weird, don't die, and make it happen. We'll see you guys in the next one.